Damn, Jupe, this you?
We have one that says, "The Weird World of KIDZ BOP." We finna see what's to this joint right here. Alright. Now I know that's right. But yeah, we finna see what's to this joint. The Weird World of KIDZ BOP.
Kid, and you would see ads on Disney or whatever other network for something called KIDZ BOP. They were telling you, or maybe your parents, to purchase CDs filled with
So my story with KIDZ BOP, for like it was the CDs. Like we didn't really like it was never like a channel that mothers went to for KIDZ BOP for us. Like it was just my mom used to get the CDs, and I think they used to come in like they used to even come in Happy Meals. I ain't gonna lie, like KIDZ BOP, the KIDZ BOP disc used to come in Happy Meals. Like I remember living in New Mexico. Yes, I used to live in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, but we used to get like a Happy Meal for my mom. My mom used to buy us Happy Meals, me and my siblings, and then it'd come with a KIDZ BOP disc. It'd be like KIDZ BOP 3 or something, and then it'll be like what was that first the first Rihanna hit, the on the replay, like that joint, they had that joint on there as a KIDZ BOP joint. Oh god, they had that shit on there as a KIDZ BOP joint.
biggest hits sung by kids for kids. Basically, the premise was that a bunch of kids would recreate popular songs, changing out the lyrics to better fit a kid-friendly theme. KIDZ BOP was one of the biggest, most recognizable companies from my childhood, and I think my mom even bought some of their CDs. Their advertising is very nostalgic to me, and I'm sure it is for many others, similar to companies like Gamefly or those fushigi balls. But the difference between those companies and KIDZ BOP is that KIDZ BOP is
Hold
still...
on. Kids now don't know nothing about no Gamefly or like the red box when mugs used to even make games out of there. Like that used to be crazy. Red box and the and Gamefly. Like I never ran off Gamefly though. I ain't gonna lie. Like that was just like I just remember the advertising, but I was applying to the red box get a game too. Like that red box time was crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
And surprisingly, from a financial standpoint, KIDZ BOP is actually doing fairly well all these years later, which has left me with a few questions like, who's actually making their kids listen to KIDZ BOP these days? How are they so successful? And what's up with all the weird controversies I've seen their name around? Well, let's check it out. So KIDZ BOP has been around since October of 2001, and since its inception, they have sold over 21 million albums, had over 4.5 billion streams, and released a total of 50 studio albums with over 1,000 songs. KIDZ BOP was the brainchild of Cliff Chenfeld and Craig Balsam, owners of Razor and Kai, which is a label. Their story is actually kind of interesting. It was just two guys who started making 70s compilation albums in the 90s, and they sort of pre-fired that people would soon start to feel nostalgia for popular 70s songs, and it was also a cheap way to get into the industry, rather than signing your own artists and producing your own music.
You can enjoy 23 of the decade's greatest hits by the original
this way technically, but no, it was just smart.
Length cassette just $14.99, CD just $18.99.
So what they were doing was relatively simple. They were taking songs that already existed, repackaging them on new CDs, and selling them off.
Oh, he was basically like he was basically just bootlegging technically.
And it's gonna kick your ass. It's Monsters of Rock Platinum Edition, the 30 hugest hair band mega hits of all time on 2 bigger than ever CDs.
It's kind of interesting to think about nowadays, but as the
Nah, he was basically Burnham was basically like with some whole other time and time. He was, I think, smart. He like, you don't gotta think hard about this shit. You can just lock in.
Interesting to think about nowadays, but as the current KIDZ BOP CEO said, at the time the only way you could hear these songs was to own the entire album, but a lot of times you didn't need the entire album. You just wanted one song off of it. So we were doing the job for you of compiling all the hits into one album, which was a very lucrative business. Basically, they were just making playlists for CDs, you know? So they decided to take this let's just repackage existing music method and apply it to the kids music market, a market that was fairly underserved at that time. Then they started KIDZ BOP, with Cliff saying, we were able to create create KIDZ BOP for a relatively small amount of money. We started KIDZ BOP by just making a CD, running spots on television, getting orders, and off we went. It's also a lot easier to get permission from a label or an artist when covering a song rather than interpolating or sampling, so getting this business up and running wasn't too difficult. The founders found a few kids who could sing, change the lyrics of popular songs, and the rest was history. Over the years, KIDZ BOP Kids have been Billboard's #1 kids album artist for 10 straight years. They've had multiple tours, and they have expanded to other countries and languages. Some popular actors and artists who once did KIDZ BOP songs include Becky G, Olivia Holt, Ross Lynch, Zendaya, and more. They even have their own radio station on Sirius XM. However, on the flip side, as KIDZ BOP began to blow up and their ads were played over TV all the time, there also began a growing disdain for KIDZ BOP.
With KIDZ BOP, you'll never stop. KIDZ BOP 2 is perfect for the car. You can order KIDZ BOP 3 online at MusicSpaceKids.com.
KIDZ BOP 3.
The marketing was a little obnoxious, and really, who wants to listen to a bunch of kids singing songs that aren't better than the originals in the slightest? And I'm not sure about you guys, but as a kid, I hated KIDZ BOP.
Really?
And I think the reason for this is that it was marketed more towards parents. I saw a comment about KIDZ BOP that said, the music isn't for the kids. The kids would rather listen to the real thing. The important distinction is that it's marketed to parents. Nobody wants to listen to KIDZ BOP. This is for the suburban soccer mom who thinks bad words are the devil and tries to pull books from the school library to protect her kids. This is why a lot of kids, especially the older ones, aren't really fans of KIDZ BOP and find it kind of annoying, like most of us do. I mean, their official TikTok page is even making jokes about how people ask them not to release music. Of course, music that's watered down and sung by kids and actively removing the substance of the original songs is going to not be good. As a writer for the Houston Press said, it's easy to make fun of the series of albums' watered down version of modern pop, but it also feels like going after low-hanging fruit. So sure, KIDZ BOP's annoying and wildly successful, we know all this now, but that's not really a problem. So what's up with all these controversies that I've been hearing about associated with KIDZ BOP? Well, when your whole brand is run by kids, revolves around kids doing half the work, and is also dealing with one of the weirdest industries out there, the music industry, there are bound to be a couple of problems. Like I said, kids are singing, kids are performing,
oh my god,
kids are
not
touring,
KIDZ BOP.
They're being interviewed,
not KIDZ BOP
kids
2.
are at the core of the KIDZ BOP brand. It's to a point where it's almost sort of strange that there aren't really ever any adults representing the brand, because it's not like we expect the kids to be running KIDZ BOP as a company. For example, I found this 2016 interview from the Badger Herald called Q&A, talking labor laws, censorship, and Barbra Streisand.
Is it because KIDZ BOP doesn't have like an actual like a star, just not like a KIDZ BOP star that they're like pushing, and it's just kids in general, just like getting any kid like sponsored and like getting any parent paid to get like their kid to dance or like sing on KIDZ BOP. I mean, I feel like that's not that bad. Like I feel like they don't have to, like, they're not pushing one child to do like tour for KIDZ BOP and all. I feel like that would like be like, that would damage the company technically. I feel like this, like, why should it be like a grown up, like why does it have to be a face? That's the thing. Like that was one thing I didn't really like mind, because it was like it's KIDZ BOP. Like it was like it didn't have to have a face. You feel me? Because it's KIDZ BOP.
Now, from that title, it sounds like they're interviewing, I don't know, maybe an adult. But no, they interviewed 14-year-old Ashlyn and asked her questions like, the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 sets 14 as the minimum age of employment. You said you've been working since 11 or 12. How were you allowed to work at that point? This guy is asking a 14-year-old hardball questions that would be tough for even the CEO to answer.
Ask the mama, ask the parent.
Why are you asking a 14-year-old this? He's talking about child labor laws, questioning the content of the originally explicit songs. Like, dude, she's a kid. Why are you asking her these questions?
For real.
But this is just where the controversy begins. There are other interviews too where it's just the kids being interviewed on their YouTube page, which again is kind of weird that it's mostly kids representing the brand. Just recently their VP was interviewed on video, but I believe this might be the only video interview they have with an adult. Other than this, I've seen maybe like
I understand now, because like there's like interviewing, like they're trying to interview the people that make KIDZ BOP, and they're sending kids out there. That's understandable. Like they should be sending out like the CEO or like the founders of KIDZ BOP. Why are they sending like legit kids out there to interview, like on Ellen or some shit? on Kids Bop behalf. Like, that's kind of crazy.
About it. Thankfully, though, on the bright side of all this, I think Kids Bop treats their kids very well from what I've seen.
Right.
While researching this video, I couldn't find a single
crazy
thing about the kids being mistreated.
Right.
In fact, I saw nothing but praise. Like this guy on Reddit who said he was a Kids Bop kid, and when asked if he would go back in time, would he have not joined, he responded saying, well, I mean, obviously I'm no Zendaya, but I definitely would. I got to keep that red guitar. They flew me out to St. Louis with my mom, and we got to sightsee for a couple days. And I got a really nice paycheck out of it. And before you guys ask, yes, as far as I'm aware, he is seem like a solid.
No, that's decent. That's decent. No, that I ain't gonna lie, cause like you found somebody that actually was like in Kids Bop, and they're talking about like they ain't had no like complaints, and nobody's coming out with no allegations towards anybody, like even for like some money, like even if it's false, like that's good, because like you're not even suspected. They was just, I don't know, like it's just like, why would they just send kids out there for like interviews? That's just the crazy thing. Like they don't know anything about it. They're just like, but it's kind of not good at the same time, because they can be kids and tell their perspective and like what they go through, and it's not like they're on there like help, or like they're not on there like, are you okay? Like you can see when the kids like kind of like hiding, or they're acting on screen. Maybe you can't if they're good actors, but that's not what those Kids Bop kids was technically doing. They acted a little bit because they like were in like music videos, but they were mainly like I seen them perform, and like, and they mainly made the songs, like, or probably like the background song. Like people like, I remember they was like doing ad libs and shit. I remember kids was doing ad libs on the like the vocals and shit.
Guitar. They flew me out to St. Louis with my mom, and we got to sightsee for a couple days, and I got a really nice paycheck out of it. And before you guys ask, yes, as far as I'm aware, he isn't lying and provided some decent proof. Regardless, it does seem like a solid work environment for kids, if that's something you can say. Apparently their parents are always with them, and sure, they do seem to work a decent amount for younger kids, but I'd imagine that all the laws are being followed. If not, I'm sure we would have heard about it by now, and I'm guessing that those kids are paid pretty well. But like I said, I saw nothing negative being said about being a Kids Bop kid. So on the bright side, at least the kids involved are good. But unfortunately, many others believe that Kids Bop is much more harmful to others than it actually is good. This is because in 2018, Vox put out an article accusing Kids Bop of, like I said, causing more harm than good. And they had quite a bit to say. The main accusation was that they failed to make the music kid-friendly, despite that being Kids Bop's entire objective. They cited a study from 2017 that was on the effects of censorship in Kids Bop. And the study found that replacing phrases does not actually wipe lyrical recognition from children's minds if they have already heard the original song.
But like,
Vox continued to say,
what else can they
did, what Kids Bop is enforcing is also not kid appropriate. The study says the music perpetuates the sociological phenomenon of kids getting older younger, which claims that marketing is pushing kids out of their childhood earlier and earlier. The study says that repackaging adult music as kids music doesn't eliminate the adult messages, even though some words and phrases are changed. One good example out of a few is their cover of Bruno Mars' The Lazy Song, where the verse on his says, meet a really nice girl, have some really nice sex, and she's gonna scream out, this is great. On the Kids Bop version it says, meet a really nice girl, send a really nice text, and she's gonna write back, you're so great. It's obviously different, but
I mean, that's not bad though.
The original meaning, like, especially if you've heard it before, kind of already sounds like it's still there. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but we got a few more examples. Plus, why are kids doing P90X? I'm not sure what that's about. There's another example of Lady Gaga's Telephone where she says, out in the club and I'm sipping that bub, but Kids Bop says, out in the club and I'm eating that grub, which despite being kind of funny is like, why are kids
why are kids
I don't know, is it a kids club? I don't know, I've never heard of that. Or even on the Old Town Road remix, instead of saying lean all in my bladder, they say riding on my bladder, which that's just strange. I don't know what that means. And then they also cheated on my baby, which is also kind of crazy for a kid's song. And speaking of Lil Nas X, he even tweeted a lyric change where instead of saying I want to feel on your ass in Hawaii and shoot a child in your mouth while I'm riding, they instead say I want to lie on the beach in Hawaii and put a smile on your face whilst dining. So this is roughly what the Vox article is getting
God.
at. On top of this, they accuse KIDZ BOP of perpetuating
So
kids
they just
getting
stopped
older
trying
younger,
for real.
which is a tricky subject because on one hand, since the dawn of time, the older generations have always kind of looked down on the younger generations. You know, the kids these days type of thing. But to an extent, it's also true, especially thanks to the internet and social media.
Right.
I mean, a middle schooler could and probably does have a similar For You page on TikTok or Instagram or whatever to many of us. And that increased exposure to all of this more adult sort of content definitely contributes to it. But I will say, in my opinion, I think as the internet becomes more and more accessible, I think it's going to lead to a lot less divide in age, you know, like generational divide. Like when Gen Z or Gen Alpha or whoever is the old generation, I feel like they will still be up to date thanks to them growing up with the internet. And I think society will be a little bit more homogenized, but that's just my theory. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to throw that in here. Maybe let me know what you think.
Like maybe the older,
anyway,
like
though, Vox
us when we get older.
by interviewing a professor of media studies named Christopher Bell, who
maybe
had some.
Like maybe when we get older, like we'll be like we're less accepted to be the type to be like, nah, we're not fucking with that anymore. Like we're gonna be more like indulging to that type of thing.
Thoughts about this. He said, KIDZ BOP is an abomination. Sanitized version of Despacito. I need 8-year-old Despacito because that song is super dirty. And KIDZ BOP
So he just don't want Mugs to sing the song in general.
theory. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to throw that in here. Maybe let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, though, Vox continued by interviewing a professor of media studies named Christopher Bell, who had some more thoughts about this. He said, KIDZ BOP is an abomination, but it doesn't censor content. I don't need a sanitized version of Despacito. I need 8-year-olds to not be singing Despacito. Because that song is super dirty. And KIDZ BOP doesn't always make that distinction. They went on to talk about how kids can sort of tell too what the songs might be about, saying they're smarter than you think, and just because a song is censored doesn't necessarily mean they can't figure out the original meaning.
Because it's the
Similarly
energy.
to when they're playing a censored radio song in the car,
The
a
velocity
couple
still
words are blanked out. It's not too hard to figure out what that means with context. The whole objective of this article was to get it through to parents that in a lot of cases, KIDZ BOP may not actually be all that beneficial, and that maybe it would be better if music was just made from scratch for kids in that age range, instead of trying to adapt adult music for kids. Almost in response to the Vox article, the current VP of KIDZ BOP, Michael
But that's the thing, like, they should just be making kids songs. Like, that's like a whole nother brand at this point. It's not a whole nother brand, but, like, it's like you have to get over, like, writers, and you have to get, like, shit like that. Like, they'll be out there. Like, imagine getting a hip-hop writer to write a hit song for KIDZ BOP. Like, I mean, I don't know. That might not be bad, but it's like, when it comes down to that, it would be like, who's gonna sing that song? And like, because usually when writers write, they have an artist in mind sometimes. So like, who they have in mind for like a kid song? And it'd be like, damn, like, and if you want to sound like hip, like the shit that they was doing, like on some Rihanna shit, like that would be kind of challenging because it would be like, damn, like. But it was some songs like that wasn't bad though. I feel like some songs weren't all the way like, but it probably did get to a point like as time like progressed, music got more explicit and it got more challenging to like make a child version of a song. That makes sense.
recently said in an interview,
there are songs where you definitely can't touch them. It's about drinking, and the entire thing is about that. There's nothing I can do about that. But if there's, you know, a couple of tweaks here and there I can make, it becomes a KIDZ BOP song.
So when I told people I was doing this interview, a lot of people are like, oh, you gotta make them make WAP clean. And it was funny to me because I'm like, well, why would they ever do that song?
Yeah, there's two versions. There's waffles and pancakes, wings and pizza. I've been accused by people of having actually made those changes, and we actually put out a KIDZ BOP version of that. There's no way I could ever touch that song. Sorry, there'll never be a KIDZ BOP version of WAP.
How do you
But like
change
the kid,
the lyrics?
I remember
that's
like
the part that
when
really,
it dropped. I remember when it dropped. Like my little couldn't turn to that beat. It was the beat like. They knew what they were doing, and that's the thing. Like the old, I ain't gonna say they knew what they were doing, but I ain't gonna say they was trying to target that beat towards the kids because they wasn't. But like they just knew that beat was a hit. That beat was crazy work, and like I remember in the old days, like videos, music videos was more targeted towards kids and more like visuals and like it was like sometimes how like if it was like a cartoon type of animated video, it was like when the kids would be locked in or like because I remember watching the Heartless video as a jit. Talking about how could you be so heartless on gang? Because that fucking the video like when it's animated, it makes like the kids like gravitate toward it quicker. And I ain't saying like that's just the videos, but like the beat for that song sounded like crazy that a kid could jump to. Like if the song, like if it was just the beat alone, the kid would have been and now since there's words to it and they made a hit out of that, man, fucked them up. Kids is on that song quick.
Interests me kind of the most is how it gets from point A to point B and be a child appropriate.
There are a lot of clean versions available out there, which people don't realize. So I think a lot of people think that we are completely rewriting songs. We're not completely rewriting songs unless we're going to collaborate with an actual artist.
Right.
But are there situations where there's a curse word stuck in there, even in the clean version, or the word damn, and I change it to yeah? I've gotten really good at, I mean, you can give me an inappropriate lyric and I can make it clean like that. Always becomes dancing, and as soon as you change back to dancing, it changes the meaning of the song completely and makes it, for the most part, kid appropriate.
But I'm guessing this answer won't really suffice
You
for most
locked
people
his
who are
bill.
somewhat critical of Kids Bop. Regardless, they will never be able to abstain from controversy when it comes to changing lyrics. Everyone in the world has slightly different moral opinions on things, and no one will ever fully agree, which is why even when they do change lyrics, they can still mess up. And
My bad, I got to think about the I ain't gonna lie.
on things, and no one will ever fully agree, which is why even when they do change lyrics, they can still mess up, and some argue they make it worse. For example, according to Slate, Kids Bop has faced such criticism before, drawing complaints in 2011 for removing the explicit references to issues of sexuality, race, and ethnicity from Lady Gaga's Born This Way. Slate continues to say that Kids Bop is pretty conservative with their censorship, suggesting they don't change the meaning.
That's crazy. Born This Way, that was probably a hard song to do too. Oh God, they probably ain't think about it, but damn, that probably was a controversial song.
Slate continues to say that Kids Bop is pretty conservative with their censorship, suggesting they don't change the meaning of songs in ways that make sense. There's also artists who don't love Kids Bop that much either, like Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy, who requested they remove their cover of Fall Out Boy's song Dance Dance because the song had very sexual overtones, so they didn't want a bunch of kids covering that and then putting it out online for more kids to listen to. So really, there's no
Makes
way
sense.
to please everyone when it comes to changing lyrics, censoring or not censoring certain words and phrases. Generally speaking, in the regard of changing lyrics, I think Kids Bop does an alright job. You know, I don't think there's a lot more they could do better, but I also agree with the premise of the Vox article. Kids Bop doesn't always meaningfully add enough or subtract enough to remove the meaning of some sometimes inappropriate songs, and kids can figure that out. So a better approach, in my opinion, would just be to make original music for kids in like the 8 to 14-year-old age range. However, at the same time, the way the internet is expanding its reach on everyone and kids are getting access to it at younger and younger ages, soon enough, I don't think it'll even matter. And I think lots of kids will listen to the same music that we adults are, us big kids. I mean, that's what I did when I was young. That's what kids do now, and I can't see them doing it any less in the future. Despite this and kids getting access to the internet and adult music sooner and sooner, Kids Bop is still somehow doing very well. So how has Kids Bop lasted this long, and how is it still so successful today? To many of us who grew up with it, it may feel like Kids Bop fell off. And honestly, it may feel hard to believe they were ever even on in the first place. I saw one guy on Reddit basically asking, I've only ever heard of Kids Bop in the context of mockery, but it's so popular and I've never heard anyone express nostalgia for the series. Does anyone remember it as a part of their childhood? And if not, who's buying it? Which I think encapsulates how most of us feel. I mean, the Vox writer from the article I mentioned earlier said, if there is an age when Kids Bop is cool, I was never that age. As a kid, an ensemble of nasal voices singing castrated covers of the most overplayed songs on the radio was always upsetting to me. Even in the
He said if it was the age where Kids Bop was cool, I was never that age. Damn. Yeah, he probably wasn't. Damn, how old was you then? Like, when was you born? I was born in '04. That's probably why Kids Bop was decent for me. Like, and I ain't wasn't over here juking to that shit. I was juking to like the don't juking. I was like jigging and juking to that motherfucking guitar jam. I ain't gonna lie, that paper jam, that was some shit. That put me onto some shit that I fuck with to this day. On gang.
Form of a 1-minute commercial between SpongeBob episodes. But there's actually a couple reasons why Kids Bop was able to persevere and yet not be looked at with nostalgia or with fondness from pretty much anyone. First of all, there's no such thing as a big Kids Bop fan. A kid's parents might buy some CDs here and there, you might play it a little, but then after a few months or even a year or so, you grow up and you no longer want to listen to Kids Bop.
Facts. Nobody's like, oh yeah, let me listen to that Kids Bop version. Oh God, like nobody's like doing that though. Like, I'm not finna look up no damn Kids Bop version of no damn track. Okay, I'm not.
Like we mentioned earlier, most kids want to listen to the real songs. And on top of this, no kid would prefer a bunch of kids singing a weak cover of a song.
And then we don't even want to listen to the clean version no more. Like all the old tracks where they made the videos clean. The videos used to be clean as fuck, and you'd be like, and now when I go back, I'd be like, damn, why is it not explicit?
You've heard the real deal. Yet they are still very successful, and part of the reason why is because of the market. Originally, thanks to the streaming era, Kids Bop's traditional ads selling CDs faded away and their numbers started to decline. So they shifted their focus a little bit. They expanded to different demographics, including other languages and other countries. They started selling merch. They did brand deals with Lego. They went on tour and put on concerts. Because of streaming services, they've also switched to releasing more singles instead of albums as well. They're also hoping for and trying to take advantage of parental controls on apps like Spotify, as well as streaming services curated playlists like Kids and Family.
They're locked.
Honestly, like I mentioned earlier, the marketing still just works on parents. So streaming has definitely made it more difficult for them, but somehow they continued to push through.
They persevered. If they
can get parental controls on streaming services, it's GG's. Kids Bop has won. But Kids Bop is no longer the only competitor in this market. And whether you love or you hate them, there's always going to be someone trying to make music or remix music for your kids. Especially as the internet becomes more available to children, and streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music are forced to enable more parental controls. Unlike how they are now.
Was not a bad idea though.
You might like my video about Vivo, a similar company from a...
Nah, Vivo was crazy. I ain't gonna lie, Vivo was a crazy era.
To enable more parental controls, unlike how they are now. If you like this video, you might like my video about Vivo, a similar company from a similar era that is also shrouded in a little bit of mysteriousness and mystique. Make sure to click the video that's on screen right now.
I bought every single movie starring Dwayne.
This is the one that I was gonna watch. Should I watch it? They just went to it so quick. This is a whole hour show. Actually, I might save this one for Thursday, chat.